Schedule, you can see all the patches that have to be made, they're made properly, and they should hold up for many, many years, so, it really does look good. Uh, we have matched the paint that is in the stairwells. It's not trying to use the original paint, but because of all the fading and everything, it looks really bad. So I matched the fading paint today. So we're gonna try and get away with painting and concrete patches with match paint. And see if we can get away with not having paint on the stairwells. So that kind of patchwork painting will start tomorrow. I picked up the paint this afternoon. So, we've moved really well. I know it's been a big inconvenience. I know the noise in the morning, but that worst part is definitely over. The gate, as you noticed, the gate's no longer there on the south side. We entered into a contract with the fourth people that we farmed. That's East Coast on the and they are a very reputable company in Daytona. Lay out the gate on big fabrication cable and do their best to straighten out. Put that area on it, so that's really, that working, panel at the bottom that the gate rides on, got that. So they're estimating about another 10 days, 2 weeks, and we'll have the gates out. So, I think we finally got the gate in the right hands. It's been a struggle to get. People said they could do it and then quit, 3 times with us.
I have a question.
Sure.
Did we get the money back, the deposit from?
Yep, AAA, yes.
Yes,
we did.
awesome.
Yeah, we did.
Wonderful.
Um, one thing that we have been working on, is the insurance evaluation for the property. We have for years dealt with a company called Sedgwick, who has done the appraisal on the building value. And this year, Mike Moore introduced us to, our current, insurance, carrier, broker, insurance broker, has been using a different company. I hadn't heard of it, IP Services, and they did an evaluation of the building. And Sedgwick had us valued around $32 million. And Sedgwick has about $32 million. IP Services has us valued at $19 million total value of the building, excluding value of the building. What does that mean? When it comes to us buying insurance, we don't have to buy to limits of $32 million now. We can buy to limits of 19 million. That should amount to a huge savings in premium when we start to get back into wind coverage for the building. That should be very significant. When it comes to fire for the building, that will come in significantly to lower that premium. So this is about a 40% drop in the value that's legally been done that will allow us to not have to buy as much insurance. So definitely a less premium we have to pay at the bottom. So that's gone very well. We had to pay another $3,200 to have it done, but we'll see those savings well within the first year.
If we actually have an appraisal like that, are we able to present that to the tax collector's office and get a reduction in the property taxes that we pay?
You know, that's a great idea. Absolutely. That's a great idea.
It could be, it's looking like about a third less of property tax.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's a great idea. I'm sorry.
So,
I think
It might be everybody pays attention to the registered value or whatever you call it, the property tax office's value. They look around at what's for sale and the values around you.
yeah. The only negative that I see, and I really hadn't thought about it, but just thinking about it now. On worst case scenario, a Cat 5 comes through and levels this place. Very, 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 very doubtful. But if it did, 19 million may not be enough to put us back. That would be a drawback. The chances of a Cat 5, and, the risk and reward of premium versus what could happen, and a very small possibility. Those are things we'd have to weigh. But that'd be the only drawback that I potentially see would be. I need to think about it some more, but that's all I see right at the moment. One of the things you noticed in the mail out that addressed this meeting is we're going to try and clean out the bike room, and so we'll be jumping on that next. You've come, Amy's come up with a
Here you go.
can. How you doing, Joyce?
You can come around this way.
Joyce, I can move and come around.
Mark.
So, clean up the bikes and you can turn them that we can donate them to that actually rebuilds and gives them to people who need bicycles. What's the name of the
It's actually it's a council church down by Granada. It's a program. She's talking. I couldn't hear on my computer. You have a great program with affected families in trouble and with foster kids, with people coming out of jail and stuff, and and so they like to receive items, if people have donated items, and it occurred to me that if somebody bicycle are going away from the bike room, if they've been abandoned, they would be wanting to get to the families and kids and education and transportation. The church would pick them up, and they would fix them up and pump up the tires and give them to families who need it. Yeah. So that's what the details that are made in contact.
Excellent. Next on the list here, we've been working on getting the second DVR that we have that has recorded images of basically everything that's inside the courtyard area and behind the gates. Currently, we've got on channel 732. You can see the two gates. You can see the where people come to the gate here to get in, and also view the parking lot. You see the laundry room. So those have been the images that have been on there. But when we get the second form tuner, which is what injects the signal from our equipment, our DVRs, into Spectrum's equipment, it'll be broadcast on channel 733, and it will be pictures of the two cameras on the south drive, the two cameras on the west, two cameras on the north, the lobbies, the cameras that we have in each lobby will be on that. So you see much more of the building. So the time frame on that, they haven't been really good about it because they have to. This is technology that they have. They have to actually build it to fit our network, and of course, the broadcast on channel 733. So, but we're staying on it to get this thing going. The last thing I have tonight is today was that meeting with Florida DOT on our A1A project, and they had it outside in the parking lot, and it was kind of noisy with the wind and the cars going by. But I think half of the attendants of the building were people from our condominium here.
At least.
Yeah, and the remaining half of that was from across the street, and the Ritz, and that because of the issues on that. There were several other people that attended, but it was mostly us within this block area that made all the same complaints we've all made versus the inability to make a U-turn, not have to go down the plaza or up the harbor to make a U-turn. the extra time. What I found significant, and they admitted today, that the original plan in this, it goes from Plaza all the way south of Bel Air, was to make it a park in the middle and put bicycle paths in the middle and develop as what they called a linear park. And when the city of Daytona Beach heard about it, they canceled it. They said, no, we're not going to have a linear park with people in the middle of two lanes of traffic going north and southbound. And so they abandoned that. So there's no longer going to be sidewalks. There's no longer be a bike path. And I said to him, well, if you abandon that, if you can't do it, then just leave it the way it was with cut-throughs for us and up at the McDonald's. And there wasn't a good answer to that. Yeah, but they are looking seriously at making a U-turn lane several hundred feet before you get to Plaza, where you can make a U-turn before the light. And they're thinking about the same thing before you get to Harvard to make a U-turn before the light. Have you ever been down in Port Orange at Lowe's? They have one of those U-turn lanes before the lights, and it really helps solve a lot of traffic issues. Come on, you're all right. You're all right.
Sorry.
So, I think that's like that came out of this, came from your husband and your thoughts with a letter to DeSantis. I'm gonna let you talk about that.
Okay. When we got home from the meeting, we researched who the Florida Department of Transportation reports to, and they report directly to the governor, Ron DeSantis. So I thought I could maybe write a letter to the governor and leave copies, you know, in all of our lobbies and in all the lobbies up and down this strip to get some signatures and send it to him. And so this is what I wrote. To the attention of Ron DeSantis, governor, in quotes, we the people who live along North Atlantic Avenue, which is A1A, in Daytona Beach, need your attention to this dangerous matter. Recent construction projects on our street that were supposed to reduce speed and increase safety have had the opposite effect. Hundreds of voters live in condominiums here along both sides of the street. We had straight, wide lanes with turnarounds in two places along the quarter mile between stoplights. Pedestrians could easily cross over the wide grassy median there to get to the beach, and residents could easily drive to and from their homes from either the north or the south. It has all become a nightmare. The turnarounds have both been removed. Now it's required to travel to the stoplights where no new left turn lanes have been installed. More danger. Traffic backs up. People are driving tensed for other cars, watching less than ever for pedestrians crossing. And pedestrians are angry and impatient that their only way to the beach is by a long detour. The wide straight lanes have been replaced by narrow curvy lanes supposed to slow traffic and increase safety. These curvy lanes are sharp, jagged curves that need complete attention from drivers, meaning less attention on potential pedestrians. And wide curves are now installed filled with grass in place of the driving lanes. What a waste of taxpayer monies. Safety is significantly reduced, not only for pedestrians and traffic, but for residents as well. Rescue vehicles also have to travel up and down to get to emergencies. Normal traffic levels have doubled as residents go up and down to get to the lights. Wheelchairs and walkers cannot cross over curbs and the wide grassy medians to get to the entrance to the beach. This is a disaster along a popular tourist destination. Your leadership and help is desperately needed. the FDOT has made a major mistake here. Please don't allow it to stand.
Okay.
All that,
All right, so I'll get these out in lobbies all over the place, and then I'll come back in a week or two.
You know, the local fire department, which I see coming down and making a U-turn going over to the towers and to a leaking over there. They can no longer do that, and they would have to wait in a turn lane. Have you gotten any kind of support from the police department or the fire department to support this?
when this all started, last year, that was one of the first places I went to. And the answer was the same in both Ormond and Daytona Beach. They said, we don't have any pull with Florida DOT. We're at their mercy for what they do. We can lodge a complaint, but it never goes anywhere. So
Deputy,
they felt it just doesn't work.
That's what a good highway, they made the ground so small that you can't put another highway back there. If it's so small now, they need to go away now. This goes.
My concern is that when they start putting plants into these berms that they put in there, is it going to block our vision, our line of vision when we're pulling out of our south gate? You know,
Oh,
because,
wow.
because if they put anything above, above 2 or 3 feet out there, it's gonna be, you're gonna have to pull way out into traffic to see what's coming. So,
That's so true.
yeah, that's gonna be, we'll have to wait and see what they plant.
We were getting this side here, we asked very intelligent question. Because this is from when they said, "Oh, it's where the mistake is verified." And we have people first because those look at them.
Oh, slow down.
And I'm like, this is really wrong. They couldn't answer for why they were redoing the work. Jonah said the 2 cars there, black lane that's, 12 inches wide. No, it's for drainage. Well, there's no drainage. That is it. So I was just, no, but we did study. This and that and all that. Really disappointed.
For the moment, what's gonna have to take place are blocking off the.
There'll be more. Yeah. Yeah, not a good situation. Was there anything else, Mark?
No, that was it. That's the last one.
Thank you.
Not the city, really.
Yes, it is a state, yeah. Polly, did you have anything to report with regards to the insurance committee?
No.
No, okay. All right, okay, then we should get back to trying to go through some of these other parts and unfinished business. So let's go to the next item that I've got is the resolution to allow the online voting system. And you should all have a copy of this resolution in your paperwork. Oh. The reason why it's so long and involved is because this is a legal document. It has to conform to legal requirements with regards to privacy and the consent forms that we need to fill out. I do know we've already been in the past, we've been working on getting consent forms out to everybody and trying to make it easy for everybody to decide if they want to have the option to vote online. We have to go through this process. And if you look at the paperwork that I've included here, you'll notice that towards the end of it, you'll see the Florida statutes number 718.128. And that is the statute that governs this whole area of online voting for condominium. So to go over it, I know we've already talked about this in past meetings, but we're going to try and pass the actual motion now. So I just want to go through what it has on here as far as the resolution. This will be authorization of online voting system. Whereas the association aims to enhance the voting process by implementing an internet-based system. Whereas the association acknowledges the need to authenticate unit owners' identities and ensure the secrecy and integrity of each ballot. Whereas the association is committed to providing unit owners with the necessary tools and information to participate in online voting, now therefore be it resolved that the association hereby authorizes the use of an online voting system subject to the following conditions. 1, authentication. The online voting system must authenticate the unit owner's identity and the validity of each electronic vote to ensure that the vote is not altered in transit. 2, secrecy and integrity. For elections of the board, the system must ensure the secrecy and integrity of each ballot. 3, confirmation. The system must confirm at least 14 days before the voting deadline that the unit owner's electronic device can successfully communicate with the online voting system. 4, receipt. The system must transmit a receipt to each unit owner who casts an electronic vote. 5, separation of information. For elections of the Board of Administration, the system must permanently separate any authentication or identifying information from the electronic election ballot, rendering it impossible to tie an election ballot to a specific unit owner. 6, storage. The system must store and keep electronic votes accessible to election officials for recount, inspection, and review purposes. 7, quorum. A unit owner voting electronically shall be counted as being in attendance at the meeting for purposes of determining a quorum. Be it further resolved that unit owners will receive notice of the opportunity to vote through the online voting system, and reasonable procedures and deadlines will be established for unit owners to consent in writing to online voting and to opt out of online voting after giving consent. Be it further resolved that written notice of a meeting at which this resolution will be considered must be mailed, delivered, or electronically transmitted to the unit owners and posted conspicuously on the condominium property or association property at least 14 days prior to the meeting. The voting system will be in addition to the voting system currently in use. It does not replace the current system, and all members will be allowed to vote by whichever means they prefer. Following that is the Florida statutes, which I'm not going to read through. Have a look at them. It all sounds very complicated, and it is very complicated. There are companies that specialize in handling these things for condominium associations. One company which I mentioned probably at the very first meeting that I was president of was a company called GetQuorum, and they specialize in handling all of this for the association. In other words, they handle all the mailing, they handle all the voting, they take care of everything that is involved with getting people registered in order to vote. So that's all part of their job. They also handle all the mailing out of ballots and proxies so that everybody gets the same thing. So that's something that we would definitely want to consider. But the first step is to make sure that we get a motion involved, the motion in place, voted on and passed, that actually allows us to take the first step, which is to investigate these companies that make this possible. I know that there's no way that, as a board, that we could possibly consider handling this much work and information ourselves. It would have to be outsourced. Make sense?
What's the cost of all this?
So typically the cost of having a company that would handle it all for us, which would include everything involved, which would include all the mailing, all of the authentication, all of the confirmation, all the receipts, is about $850 per year, per annum. Now, consider that how much we spend on mailing if we were to do this as a mail out. Let's say we went ahead with the members meeting and we had to mail out all of the paperwork that went along with these motions. Typically, a typical mailing into this number, to the 128 units, 129 units, would run somewhere around the $300 range.
Yes.
$400 range. So, in other words, basically, you're looking at about two elections or 2 members' votes, or a combination of both, would actually pay for itself by having somebody deal with it. Okay? So they're the ones basically that would get people voting. And when we do, if we want to make changes, I mean, this isn't just up to me. If we as a group want to make changes to the way, the declaration of condominium is set up, or the bylaws, then it requires members' votes. So members' votes would mean that we would need somebody to basically get out all this information to all the members. Okay, make sense? Questions? Is it worth it?
Well, basically, if you do two meetings, and we're required to have two meetings that are members' meetings, the annual meeting and the budget meeting. And if we did nothing else but just those two meetings, you'd break even. Easy. So you do another meeting like for making changes to the docs, well, then you're ahead of the game.
Do they also gather the ballots and
Yes.
give us the results?
Yes, they do tabulating, they do everything. It's all done, according to, they're the ones who basically, who follow the rules, the statute 718, they follow it to the letter. Okay, and that's the governing document is the Florida statute, 718.12. Yeah,
Would that include all the paper and PDF?
they would do all the mailing, yes. They do all the copying, all the mailing. Basically is we basically say to them, these are the motions that we want passed, or this is the budget that we have. We send them, you know, the needed paperwork, and then they disseminate it to everybody. They send it to everybody. So, yes.
I've got a first question with regard to transparency. Insofar as them being mailed out, when we do it now, when it comes back, no matter how many we have, they don't have to have their unit numbers on the outside envelope, if I'm not mistaken. And then there's a ballot inside, and then it gets put to the side so we don't know whose
Yeah.
envelope it came
Yeah,
out of.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. So we know the authenticity of the ballot.
Right.
How many people do that now? How many people vote totally out of the 128 units?
You mean with the elections or the budget?
Yeah,
We had a pretty good turnout for the election last time. I think it was like 78%.
What do you remember from counting the ballots on how many total came in? Do you have a?
I'm gonna say 90.
90 out of 128. That's a pretty high percentage.
so if everybody gets mailed something and they choose to electronically do this, you can't give somebody an electronic proxy.
Yeah, that's covered under the statutes, how that works. And that is something that, again, that has to be regulated, and one vote per unit, obviously. That has to be, we have to be
Okay, so now how do you do the often? You know, when you get it in the mail here, it's mailed in, it's stamped, and you know who sent it in, but you don't know what their vote was because that
Correct.
gets segregated.
Yeah.
Now,
They get opened up on the day of the election.
correct. So what happens? Well, how's the authenticity of, how are they authenticated? In
Okay.
other words, do
Well-
they get a driver's license? Do they get?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, how they identify, there's obviously gonna be at least a two-step verification, has to be. So typically, they would accept, first of all, a consent form, and then they would have to be verified as far as who they are and their address and some sort of identification, obviously some kind of identification that matches. Sorry, go ahead.
At the end, what we send out at the end of the meeting. For them to respond to the election and then to respond to the proxy,
Mhm.
those are two very separate things. They're in separate envelopes.
Mhm.
They have to mail them back to us separately. And with the changes that have occurred, I mean, there's only one item left on that at the annual meetings, and that's if the owners want to roll over the money from the previous year into the next year to avoid paying taxes on it,
Mhm.
because now we're required to have an audit every other year.
Right.
So this is our skip year, twenty twenty-five. No, last year was our skip year, twenty twenty-four. The end of this year will be an audit for twenty twenty-five, and then it alternates that per the statute. So we don't have to ask that question anymore. So it just becomes, the only question is rolling over the funds, and you can almost maybe pass something as a rule change to the condo docs, that we always do that. And then you don't need to do a proxy. That thought, just a thought.
Um, at this stage, what we're looking at is sort of, we're not moving ahead with actually hiring anybody to do it. But it sets us up so that we can go to them now and say, okay, give us more information. And we can go to them and say, okay, we've done the lake, we've done the foundation, we've done the infrastructure to get it going, right? We've passed the motion, and then from there, we can go to them and say, okay, now tell us how this works. I mean, I've already had an hour-long conversation with them. It was way back when, but I really encourage everybody on the board and anybody who wants to check them out, get the information, get the questions answered from them, because they're the ones that'll be doing it.
Well, what about them making a presentation or $800
Well,
a
they
year? not
offered,
worth
yeah,
it?
they offered that, and I sent emails to every board member saying, hey.
Here.
I did that
I
to
mean,
everybody. That was back to the, I can send it out in the constant contact to anybody if you want. But this is a board decision at this point,
Okay,
okay? This is the board decision to say, yes, we will adopt the motion, which is going to allow us to go forward to the next step, which basically will be to see if we want to hire somebody to actually do this. It's just,
it's exploratory.
exactly, right. So any other, yes, Pat?
$800, does that include lunch? Hours? Or not? Right, but when.
For the company that will be doing the election.
Condo.
Well, if
You won't, right?
I think it's gonna be very little time on my part. I mean, I produced,
Then 2 days.
yeah, well, I was putting everything together and the envelopes and
They
collating.
do all that.
They do all that.
They do all that.
Yeah.
Is that included in the $800?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
How do you ensure sure that somebody doesn't vote by paper and then their spouse votes electronically?
Because it's in the, we do have regulations in place already that there's only one voter allowed per unit, right? Right. You have to, either you or Wayne would register to be, you're the voting person for your unit. If we get a vote from me in this case, let's say for example, if I put a vote in, it's gonna be discounted because I'm not the voting rep for my unit. I'm his. She's.
But if you're on,
Well, they have to, they,
You're gonna separate them, you're gonna separate them from the ballot. And so, say, you know, you're an ABC and you separate the ballot from the envelope. And I'm wondering, how will the paper tally join to the digital tally? To ensure that the state-
so it's like the hybrid version. So you're basically saying it's, so you'll have people voting in person plus online. Is that what you?
That's what-
Yeah.
If I happen
Okay.
to have the option of voting on my paper or digitally.
That's a good question. And that's something that I would definitely check with them before I would hire them and see exactly how that works. But they do offer hybrid voting. So it's not just, they're not just gonna do, they take care of everything as much. So if we vote in person, I'm not exactly sure how they do it, but they do offer hybrid voting. So in other words, if we vote in person and some of us vote online, some of us vote, they tabulate the in-person ones, put it together with the online ones, and make sure there's only one of each. I see. Right.
Yeah,
So, so yeah, it has to come together as one. Everybody has. But that's a very good question. It's something I would
But you
definitely ask.
can't identify the online one by the unit number because
Yeah.
it's gotta be anonymous.
No, it has to be identified. There has to be a way. They have to.
Then you'll know what that person is.
Sorry?
In other words, if you do it by mail, the ballot itself is anonymous because it's an envelope from inside of another envelope that did have votes, and it gets separated into a separate pile. However, you're telling me that if you vote online, they will be able to tie your vote to your unit. And that would be total transparency of who voted for what. And that's not what the intention of the vote would be.
Well, again, it's a good question, and I encourage you to check it out online and have a look at. I know I sent out invitations to everybody on the board to have a look at this place probably 3 months ago, 4 months ago. And yeah, there's definitely questions that we want to get answered before we take the step of hiring someone to do this. I can tell you that we're not the first place
Mhm.
that has had, so obviously they are conforming to rules and regulations. They're not as small. So, you know, I assume that they've done this in the past and that they know how these things work. I don't. But I know that there is definitely, I know that they follow the rules, the legislation, to some degree.
Get a form for anybody who wants to check it out.
Yep, looks like it's GET QUORUN.
Thank you.
This is a really dumb question, but it doesn't, I know that there are some hours that don't have computers and
And they can vote in person
that never goes away.
or by proxy. Yeah. Everybody's given an opportunity to vote somehow. And all this is doing is expanding that possibility, that's all. I have to say it's a little bit selfish on my part because I'm not gonna be here for 6 months. So I'd like to be able to vote if there's something comes up. I mean, there may be nothing that comes up in the next 6 months, but you know, it would be good if I can take part in the board meetings from, you know, and vote on motions and rules and things. Right now I can't if I'm not here, technically. I mean, I shouldn't say that I can't because I can phone in. We can do phone in and I can participate that way. But this just opens it up to make it official, basically. Any other questions?
Next year, you could get maybe 4 volunteers here to do it instead of having, you know, different cabinets, doing everything.
Yeah.
Next year. And then the next year after that. And then you are.
It's possible that we can, once we establish it, absolutely. I mean, that's a good suggestion. Once we get it established and we see how it actually works, know how these things actually, how the step procedure, then yeah, by all means, we're open to say, well, thanks very much for you know, showing us how to do it and move on from here. Yeah, as you know, these elections and voting for condo associations are very strictly regulated. So you have to really, I'm finding out how strict the regulations are every day. Anyway, so, anything else? Anybody else? Please go online and check out this place, you know, if you have questions. And feel free to call me or email me if you have questions that I can answer. I don't have all the answers, but I do hope that we can move forward, at least setting the foundation. So I would like to propose a motion if there isn't anything else then. So the motion is to pass board resolution number 202503 titled Authorization of Online Voting System, whereas the Bel Air Condominium Association Board of Directors has reviewed and discussed the proposed resolution number 2025-03, and whereas the resolution aims to implement an internet-based online voting system, and whereas the adoption of this resolution is in the best interest of the Bel Air Condominium Association and its members, be it resolved that the Bel Air Condominium Association Board of Directors hereby adopt resolution number 2025-03, authorization of online voting system as presented. I hereby make that motion. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by John Calvert.
Discussion. You just made a motion to adopt it.
we had a discussion. That's what we were doing.
You did, well, you make a motion, it gets seconded, and then it gets, you could talk about it like you did, but you make a motion, you get a second, and then you discuss the actual motion. Your motion this motion is to adopt and bring these people, on. This is not.
No, I think that the motion is to adopt the resolution. Yeah, it's just to adopt the resolution.
Not an online voting system. It says,
The resolution aims to implement it. It doesn't say to adopt an online internet-based.
okay, I'm sorry.
It doesn't say that. It says to implement the online voting system and to adopt the resolution as presented. So we're not saying that we're hiring anybody to do it.
Okay. One of these, I was reading it from the agenda, where the agenda said resolution and motion to adopt an online voting system.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but that agenda has been updated.
Okay.
So,
I withdraw my objection.
well, it's good to be clear on it, that that's not what we're doing. We're not in a position to
Okay,
hire anybody yet.
I
But I
agree.
do hope that we can at least say, if we decide that we want to hire somebody, then it's a go. If we say,
Agree.
that's basically where we're at. We can, at this point, if we adopt the resolution, then we're allowed to do the next step, which is say, okay, should we hire this company or should we not?
Agree.
Thank you for the clarification.
So, any other discussion? So we have a seconder and, agreed? Agreed, unanimous, thank you, so passed. Okay. Next. So the next thing that is actually, is actually a package of minutes, which we're going to vote on as a complete package. We're not going to vote on any minutes individually. All right. So we can vote to. Right, so you'll see that there's a part of your package says motion to adopt amendments to the set of rules and regulations of BCA, Delaware Condominium Association. Everybody have that in front of them? Motion to adopt amendments to the set of rules and regulations of BCA. First line, and it will be Amendment 1 decorum.
That's the first page after the agenda in the packet.
Everybody there?
Mhm.
Anybody missing? Anybody? Okay, we'll try to stay awake through this. We're almost done, folks. All right, so this is a package which is going to, these again are going to be adopted to the rules and regulations. So these are all amendments which will be either accepted or denied by the board of directors. Okay? So we're going to take them, we'll take them one at a time, but then we'll vote at the end on all of them. Okay, that makes sense. So the amendment number 1 is titled decorum. The objective of this amendment is to streamline the proceedings of condominium board meetings, ensuring efficiency and fairness in member participation. This motion aims to maintain order and decorum at meetings, ensure all members' voices can be heard within the constraints of time management. So this is actually rule number, this will be amended to the set of rules as rule number XI11. Whereas the board of directors of Bel Air Condominium is elected to run meetings and conduct the business of and for the benefit of the owners of the Bel Air Condominium, and whereas from time to time the business of the board may be contentious and may inflame the emotions of board members, unit owners, and all present. Therefore, let it be resolved that anyone who verbally attacks, yells or uses cursing or foul language at anyone else in the meeting will be removed from the meeting at the order of the president of the board or the chairing officer. If the offending party repeats such behavior at a future meeting, they shall be prohibited from attending all future board and committee meetings for a period of 1 year from the date of the infraction. And whereas if anyone physically threatens, attacks, or in any way commits bodily harm to anyone before, during, or after board or committee meeting, they will be prevented from attending all future board and committee meetings indefinitely and will be subject to criminal prosecution. Such individual owners will be entitled to vote by proxy for all motions and elections requiring owner member votes. However, such individuals will be prohibited from holding office in absentia due to being banned from attendance at meetings, and the time limit for individual members to comment or discuss a topic when open to members by the chairperson will be 3 minutes maximum unless granted an extension by the chairperson. A timer will be visibly used by the meeting chairperson to enforce this limit. Speakers who exceed their time will courteously ask to conclude. Any member wishing to present new business at the board of directors meeting should sign up at least 21 days prior to the meeting date. This gives the secretary sufficient time to add the member's business to the agenda. The effective date of this rule will come into effect from May 16th, 2025, 30 days from today, following approval of the condo board. Communication. The rule will be communicated through all official channels, email, community bulletin, condo website, etc., to ensure all members are aware. There will be an annual assessment. The effectiveness of this rule will be reviewed annually or as needed based on feedback from members and the board. And so that we will wait till the end to put the motion in place for that one. Okay. In the meanwhile, before we actually do the motion, is there any questions on that particular one? That's pretty much what you had presented earlier with the addition of the 3-minute rule, basically.
Yeah, I didn't.
So that was,
It's fine.
these are all, just as a point of interest, all of these have been worded in accordance with our legal counsel. So we've used this while we're putting them all together. Amendment number 2, resident notices. This will be added to. So actually, this is an amendment to rule number 4D. Okay, so this is actually an amendment. So there's actually some changes to the wording of this rule, and we changing the rules and regulations. Whereas the current rule 4 IVD of the Bel Air Condominium Association has been reviewed and found to require revision for better clarity and alignment with the community needs. Whereas the board of directors of the Bel Air Condominium Association has the authority to amend the rules and regulations governing the use of the condominium properties, be it resolved that Rule 4D of the Bel Air Condominium Association is hereby revoked and replaced with the following wording. Actually, that revoked is not okay. So the Rule 4D will now read: resident notices / ads may be posted on the laundry room bulletin board. Resident notices / ads may be inserted into the south lobby area glass enclosed bulletin boards by contacting the property manager. Residents should limit the size to 4 by 6 inches and must, which is a new word, include the date of the posting and the name and unit number of the poster, which are new words on each notice. This date will be, this amendment shall take effect on May 16, 2025 from today's date, upon acceptance by the board. Amendment number 3, this will be added to the rules and regulations as rule number 12. All bicycles in the, rule number 12, bicycles. All bicycles in the storage room attached to the laundry room must be registered with the manager's office by May 16, 2025. If a bicycle is found to be inoperable or without a registration tag after midnight on May 16, 2025, it will be removed for disposal by the management. If you will be away for any extended period, please consider storing your bicycle in your unit until you return. If for any reason you will not be able to comply with this directive, please let Mark know as soon as possible. Please see Mark Applegate in the office to obtain a bicycle permit before May 16th, 2025. Amendment number 4, storage lockers. This will be added to the rules and regulations as rule number 13, storage locker. All storage lockers must be registered with the manager's office by May 16, 2025. If the storage locker is not registered in person by email or by calling the office before May 16, 2025, the lock on it will be broken off and all items in the locker will be removed. The manager will keep a digital record of all lockers and their registered owners in a secure file. Contact Mark Applegate as soon as possible to register your storage locker office hours on Friday night. Okay, so, questions, comments, discussion? Yes.
The resident notices in the one room and
Yeah.
different buildings, et cetera. There were no, consequences in violation, everything else has a consequence. There's no consequence, what would you suggest?
Yeah, if you go through our total document called rules and regulations, it actually spells out exactly what the consequences are if you don't obey the rules. So there are fines in place that are in place. I highly suggest that you go through the entire document called rules and regulations, and you'll see that it actually does spell out exactly what the consequences are. If you read the rule.
If someone posts it and doesn't have a name and unit number, is there a procedure for it to be taken down? Is there a procedure for what is the procedure?
Yeah, we can add that into it, but it will be taken down if it doesn't have that on, if it doesn't have, it sort of goes without saying, but yes, I mean, if it's necessary, we could amend it and put those words in there as well.
And after it's put up multiple times without any identification, is there a secondary consequence, I guess, if you will? What happens, I mean, you were very clear on the others. If it happens once, this happens. If it happens more than once, something else happens. If it happens over and over, you're banned from the meeting, et cetera. In this case, if it happens over and over again, what happens?
Okay, right, well, again, the consequences are spelled out in the rules and regulations of the condo association.
Because we're adding all these extra words though.
Well, actually, we're adding only, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 words.
I understand, but obviously the identified words, I'm just curious that it does do the documents, do the consequences reflect these added words?
Do the consequences reflect the added?
Right, in other words,
Yeah, the consequences for breaking the rules are general for all the rules. So the rule. Just give me a second, I'll look up the document.
I remember being on a road committee previously, we specified certain things with regards to parking. There was a specific fine for that, and there was a certain amount of fine that was able to be levied on different infractions.
For which,
For instance, the parking.
actually not in the rules, no, parking is part of the declaration of condominiums. Parking is not in the rules and regulations. Parking spaces are not in the, we've got garages in the rules and regulations, but they're governed by according to Holly. She said that's part of the declaration, parking spaces.
We spent a long.
I'm just going by what it's.
Okay, I'm not disputing what she told me, it's exactly right.
Somebody wanna pick one and I'll pick the other, we'll find it.
I just want to know who to thank for advertising my business. It's been
We need to charge for space on the laundry bulletin board for the advertising.
I need to thank somebody for my new clients.
You have the rule to do.
Yeah, this is the old rules, this is new, you know, you can find it faster than me, you're welcome to.
Can I just ask, is it possible that, then are you asking that if anybody sees a notice on laundry room that does not have a name and.
No identifier.
Yeah, no identifier, that anybody can just take it down?
I'm not sure what is the process. I think we need to be clear, because okay, or just take it down, or.
If I was selling Girl Scout cookies for my granddaughter and I wanted to post that anybody wants to, Girl Scout cookies. I would put my name
Absolutely.
and number because I want people to come and ask me.
Yeah,
So anything that goes up on the board should, right,
yeah, no, I agree with that. So if there are some things that do not have a name And then identify the unit number, then I guess we, is the way to keep our own. Is the call mark, mark will take.
Take a bit.
Simple as that.
Something without an idea. It's usually,
Somebody's supposed to be under camera who's putting up this, stuff without an enterprise, right?
We found Mr. Shooter 3 times doing it.
We can do this.
Well, that's why I don't know what it is, what I did, the community, the temporary videos.
Yeah,
You know, that's why I'll be transmitted to the offender now.
yeah, that's much better than minimal.
Once it was done, I think that because people being charged $30 to check through the film. And then the same person keeps doing it over and over, then it seems logical to me that that person would pay for the program.
That is the fee that Kevin charges for going through the video.
That's correct.
Actually, it's per event.
Per
not
event.
per hour.
I didn't know.
Yeah, somebody takes it down, one takes it down, and secondarily, if it's a violation, a repeat violator, that person is then what, fined, is there any subsequent trouble after it's 2 and 3 and 5?
If you go ahead, is this gonna delay it for another month?
No, I'm gonna put it in there right now.
No, you can.
You decide what the wording, decide right now what the wording is gonna be, what the fine is gonna be, and I can just type it right in here right now. So this will be added to the part where it says, right, so resident notices that must be maybe posted in the laundry room or Richard's rule or the, so. Resident should emphasize and must include the name, posting, and the name and unit number on each note, so we're gonna add a sentence to that. Or two, I guess. So what do we want as far, what do you want to say as far as, fines are concerned, or?
First, about the removal, you know, are we either removal or removing it at the beginning?
No,
Are we doing it?
no,
No,
I think Mark,
either the matter.
Mark's responsibility as property manager, and it's his responsibility to follow up, however it's gotta be done, if it has to be done by reviewing tapes or what have you. And then the fine should be the costs incurred, his time of working on it, the time and expense of the person who is doing the follow-up through the film. And that ought to be levied against the individual who did it. And if it's a repeat offender, if it's recidivism, and they do it a second and third time, maybe there's a maximum, I don't know what the maximum allowable fine for something like that is.
You're expecting something more. Then a third and 10th time, you can't go more.
It's anybody who wants to promote anything is gonna put your name on it. You wanna promote,
Back up for a second, guys, okay, so I've got, the next sentence will be, if the rule is not followed, management is tasked with removing the offending post. Okay, that good? Okay,
Yeah.
so what do we want to do next as far as the fines are concerned? Or the number of offenses?
by the way, I don't even want you to have to say offending post. Just removing the post, the post was improperly put up, that doesn't mean it was an offensive post.
No, not
No, I understand, but
I didn't say it was offensive, I said offending, the different,
well,
the one that's offending the rule.
Mhm.
notifications without identification,
there you go.
notices without identification.
That's right, the bulletin board's just so big, we have limited space. Should be at
Okay,
a
so if the
premium.
rule is not followed, management is tasked with removing the post. Okay, and so next, what did we want to add in there? So, repeat offenses or one-time offense? Are we going to,
Oh, first,
are we gonna say fine, a fine for one offense is, I don't know what else, what other term do I use on an offense?
the cost incurred to determine who the offender was.
Okay,
It's gonna be Mark's time having to
so
take it
if
down,
we
or
say,
the other guy's time for reviewing the case.
so, okay, so the fine for
Hopefully this will just be a big deterrent and it won't happen again. But there isn't gonna have to
Fines for improper notices.
And fine for disobeying this rule will be equal to the cost of discovery.
I've never seen them around.
It's gonna be Notice the fine for disobeying this rule will be equal to the cost of discovering the offender via video search. Okay, and so we also want to include something for repeat offending or continue to fine for each time.
Double the fine.
Double the fine for each subsequent offense.
It's like that one for penny, 4 penny, million penny. That's right.
School teachers said that there was, you know, it was like, no, maybe serious, but it is a little.
Okay, anything else? Okay, you want me to, okay. Okay, so we'll try again. Sort by continues must include the date of the posting and the name and unit number of the poster on each notice. If the rule is not followed, if this rule is not followed, if this rule is not followed, the management is tasked with removing the post. Fine for disobeying this rule will be equal to the cost of discovering the offender via video search. Each subsequent offense will incur a double penalty. Anything else? Right? Was there, so are we going to, can we address any of the other, yes, Paul?
Amendment 3 and amendment 4. Because of agricultural.
Yeah, I think, okay, I didn't include that on there. I think it's the same.
Would it be acceptable to post it in the elevator like we do?
Yeah, that's,
Public posting?
yeah, it would be, yeah, the same as what yes, well, yeah, and basically the same methods that we would use to notify people with regards to the online voting. I think there was a little parenthesis in there that said basically this is how we're going to notify everybody, is we're gonna put up posters, we're going to send written notices, we're going to email them, possible methods, basically. Primarily, I think especially with regards to those two specific instances, with the bicycle locker and the storage lockers, probably postings on the doors would be a really good idea too. I know that that's kind of against the rules, but it probably would be a really good idea if we post something right on the or inside the storage lockers, so that when you walk in there, you're able to see that there's a post there. So if you're using it, you know, at least you know that. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Do people rent those lockers like we pay for, you know, garage fees each year? No? No? So you're not necessarily sure who actually owns each one of
We
them.
should have a list of everybody.
Well, we've been accumulating one. There wasn't one before I started.
Okay.
Yeah, so I guess with the storage lockers and the bicycles, it's a little bit different where, I mean, if people aren't using their bicycles and they're sitting in there, there are rules in place already. These are just basically making official things that have already been stated in the past. Okay, with regards to the bicycles, because there's been notices sent out over and over again in the past with regards to bicycles, and going through some of the old documents from several years ago, I've seen probably 3 or 4 postings on there about bicycles having to be either used or taken away, right? So this basically is just gonna make it official. But, yeah, we may want to make sure that we add to that, posted, that these items will be posted at every means possible. The law, again, I checked with the legal on this, and they said that these notices have to be given 30 days, and you have to send them out every way possible you can to get. That was the legal aspect of it, so as long as we comply with that, I think we're okay.
Do we currently have 100% of owners current living, addresses, like if they're in Canada or if they're in, somewhere else out, or if they're in, I know we have 1 or 2 people, I think, that are in Europe as well. I mean, do we have the mailing address and email literally for everybody at this point? We only have 128 units.
I know we don't have emails for everybody.
About half of the addresses, as far as their legal address,
Mhm.
is their unit numbers.
Okay,
The other half are absentee owners, or they want all of their legal documents sent to their northern home. So basically, it's about 50, probably 60-40. 60% use their address here at the condo, 40% do not. They use an address segment or in Canada. As far as emails are concerned, the list has grown dramatically since we've done these mail outs and asked for them. What are we up to, like 50, 60?
As far as the allowing notifications?
Yeah. Well, we got
yeah.
2 lists of emails. One is what I started, which was an unofficial list just for information. So we've had that in the system, and what we're getting now is them wanting to be the official way of getting notification on things. And that list is about 40, 45.
Yeah, there's, fewer with the.
Yeah. But I've got like 65 email addresses.
but you do have some sort of contact for every single
Yes.
person.
We have phone numbers, we have addresses.
I mean, I know from the
Yeah, but I don't have those.
assessments that
Yeah.
we went after, I know we had a list of people.
Yeah,
Some
I
of the
mean,
addresses were different, but the phone numbers wound up working.
we've got their legal address, which shows on their deed with the property appraiser's office. And then, like I said, we've asked for phone numbers. A lot of people, we have 2 of them, and we've asked for email addresses. Now we officially are asking for email addresses for them being the proper way to notify them.
And one of the things that's sort of on my to-do list this summer is going to be to call those people that we do not have email addresses for.
Mhm.
Because I know we have phone numbers for everybody, and to just ask them in person whether or not they would supply us with an email address. And just make sure that everything is up to date.
Yeah.
Mark and I have been working back and forth and sharing the list as it gets updated. And so that's something that we'll continue to do, is make sure that we're, and of course, anybody who wants the list, it's welcome, you're welcome to it. So I just want to add to that, to those 2, the caveat that the notice will be sent out by all possible means. And we'll do our best to comply legally with what's required. Maybe it's not going to work for me. Okay. Okay, so I just want to add one sentence to both of these last 2 rules. This notice will be sent out by all possible means and will be posted on the bicycle door, and on the last one will be posted in the storage locker areas, but they have those as well. Okay. Yes.
when the last mail out was with the members meeting,
Yeah.
that was included.
Yes.
Except the deadline was then in April, so people,
Yes.
everybody would have gotten a heads up.
Yeah.
And if they were concerned, they probably would have talked about it,
Everybody who's on the email list would have already gotten all this package.
and then the paper mail.
Whether or not they looked at it or not, well, there's according to Constant Contact, there's about a 79% view on what we send out typically. So, you know, if we're sending out to, I think it's somewhere, we're sending out to somewhere around 80 contacts every time that I post it. I also am posting, I hope most of you are aware that we have a website in progress, and all of these things are posted on the website as well. So we're getting it out there every possible way that we can as far as making sure that, you know, that people get a chance to see it. Some people, of course, are not going to see it. I'm hoping that if people have a bicycle in there that they don't want disposed of, that they're at least conscientious enough to sort of be involved with what's happening in the building. If they've left the bicycle in there and they don't care whether or not, you know, they're not in touch with anybody in here, then it should be disposed of. The bicycle room is another one of those areas where there's no space left in there for anybody. So it's got to be dealt with. And I think the storage locker as well. I mean, that's an issue where there may be people looking for places to store things, and they can't because all the storage lockers are used up by a certain percentage of people that just aren't using them at all. So those are just areas that need to be addressed. And I'm hoping that this will address it. But we will take care to make sure we are within our legal bounds as far as passing maybe. Okay, absolutely. And I think we all saw the email from Holly with regards to the corrections that had to be made. And so all the corrections I made, unfortunately, Holly didn't get back to me. She's off now, so she didn't get back to me to confirm that they're all okay, but I was very careful to follow everything that she suggested. Okay. Any other discussion on any of these?
Nice work.
Yeah, very nice. Okay, so then I would like to propose to present a motion to adopt the amendment to the set of rules and regulations of Bel Air Condominium Association as read. We have a seconder.
Second.
Second, and any further discussions? All in favor?
Yeah.
Unanimous, passed. Thank you. And so that's that part.
When you go home, if you send us anything, we're gonna have to pay a 25% tariff on it.
Sure. I'll send you all the Chinese stuff. Okay. So that's it for the unfinished business. Is there any new business that anybody would like to bring up at this point?
I would like to. I would like Mark to follow up on the issue with regard to the property tax, if we got a reduction.
Yeah, I got another.
Whatever process you have to go through to get the accounting. And you know that the current value of the property is not what the market value, the market value is always more.
Yeah,
And they say, well, listen, it still should be proportional.
yeah, absolutely.
I'm curious, just out of curiosity, in Canada, we have a system where the value that's placed on your property means absolutely nothing. They have a separate appraisal for the government that basically decides on property taxes.
Right.
So it's Canada man, you know what it is, where they have a separate assessment. And that's who basically decides on what your mill rate and your property tax is.
And
Is it the same?
it's just in here, the market value is
So anyway-
always more than
Yeah,
its value. However, if we're looking at the replacement value, the taxable
Doesn't
value being reduced, should be reduced.
yeah, that's what they would do a reassessment, because I know in Canada, we can ask them to reassess if we feel that it's incorrect. Like the ones that set the tax rate.
Now, it may be a while because we don't have anything else working in the government. It may take some time.
It might. Yes.
Did anybody send you anything about suggestions for parking?
Parking, yes, we're gonna work on that some more. I did discuss it again with, we had some legal issues as far as the parking is concerned. It's kind of a gray area because the parking issues are included in both the rules and regulations and in the declaration of condominium. So what happens is the declaration of condominium is basically the governing document. It's the one that sets the rules. And according to Holly, our counsel, what happens is that this other stuff in the rules and regulations can only be bound by the declaration of condominium. So that's what we have to deal with, is get the parking space. And the garages aren't mentioned per se in the declaration of condominium, but they are referred to as parking spaces. Right? So the parking spaces basically in the declaration of condominium includes all the garages plus all the parking spots. Okay, and that's the problem, is it's gonna, to do one, you have to do them all, right? So you can't take it piece by piece and say, well, we want to change this part of it. We have to change the entire thing. So that's the limited common elements. And if you want to check and see what we've tabled, I know you didn't get a copy of the ones that are tabled, but if you want to check and see, and you do have access to a computer, they're all online. Okay, so you can either go to the new website, which is bellaircondos.org, or you can simply email me and I will send you a link to the where the tabled motions are, because they will be brought up again once we get the voting procedure in place. Right, that's what we got to do first. So we kind of put the cart before the horse. We're doing the motions first, and then the voting procedure. That's why it was important today to get the voting procedure done. Starting to make a little bit of sense.
I have a question, I'm totally different, regarding our wind insurance appraisal. And so is that all the information that we need to, talk to the, insurance brokers about, estimates for our wind insurance?
What we, correct me if I'm wrong, what our thought was, once we got this,
Mhm.
once this was done, was then making contact with Mike and with, Representative Brown and Brown. And see what they could kind of do for us,
Okay,
what they're
so
about to.
you,
And
We're
then,
ready to go to that stage now.
yeah,
perfect,
we've got all the information. And then we have to make a decision. You can't pick, it's not like column A and column B. You can't put this coverage from Brown and Brown and this coverage from Mike Moore. It's the whole package. So once those discussions are had, the decision will be made which one to run with, and then we do a letter of intent with that particular broker.
so that, that'll be happening now.
Yeah.
Okay,
Path is clear.
Discussion. We had another organization come in. I have a packet that they left. There were a couple of gentlemen that came in one night and representing a company. And they made a presentation to the whole group of people. This is when we were going through that. And you may have.
Yeah, I remember them. Yeah, I
They
know.
were a nationwide type
Yeah,
corporation.
no, I probably do have their stuff.
I definitely do have this.
You do? Okay.
So I mean, is there some, I mean, would you want to limit it to this, or would Polly be more likely to want to entertain, another opinion from this other nationwide type?
Are there other agents that we should be looking at, Polly, or is it two enough?
We can look at as many agencies as you want to look at. Those were just the two that were brought to my attention. This from on our current, not more. So those are the two that I looked at. So far. And then today, Bernie's meeting the first time I got information regarding the highway.
Well, it just happened this week.
Yeah, because I put it up,
Yeah, yes,
let's look at it and then for you guys to decide which one you want to go with.
Give Mark the packet of stuff I have, drop it in his office tomorrow, and then.
Yeah.
you want to go through it.
Sure.
Thank you.
In '97, when I lived here, we had a hospital on everybody's name and one number. Well, everybody.
registry.
Can they do that again?
Yes, I have that on my list of to-do things, is to do a registry. I have a page already set up on the website, under the members section for a registry. It's gonna be a matter of everybody having to agree, because now, as opposed to 97, the privacy laws are a lot different than what they used to be. So, so it's gotta be it's very tightly regulated now. And back in 97, it was just no big deal. You put your name and address and phone number out there, everybody gets it, but not anymore. So, we just have to be careful about it. But it's one of those things that's on my list, for sure. Any other new business or information that anybody wants
Let me
to?
ask you a question. My name is John Stoddard, 314, I'm looking at your, as to assessment, that these people live here, they have the privilege of living here. Is there a way, outside of the lien, you could cancel their slot from entering the secured gates as a punishment? I mean, they're living here, not paying the assessments, I pay the assessments,
Mhm.
and they can have 30 or 50 years that's in here. But it's still, paying the assessment, there's no way to function that way. With the law.
I don't know if we can do that. I mean, technically, it's easy to do. I mean, it's a few keystrokes and I can just program a file. But as far as legally being able to do that, or is it proper, I don't know. I'll have to look. Where we stand at the moment, I didn't mention it earlier, but, we've had 6 people who have made 0 contribution to the roof. And 2 weeks ago, a letter on Cobb Coal Stationery went out to them saying that they got 2 weeks to pay, and if it's not paid in 2 weeks, we'll start with an intent to lien, and the cost incurred for that intent to lien will be borne by the property owner, not by the association. So we're just about at the very end of that 2 weeks, and they're ready to cycle in. One party paid after receiving the letter from Cobb Coal, some $5,000, and we've gotten that. So that list of 6 is down to 5. One of those 5 is Unit 409 that is under foreclosure. We're in good standing with that foreclosure. We're actually number 1 in front of the bank because of some rule changes the state of Florida had. So fees that are owed us for not just their monthly dues, but the 2 special assessments that have not been paid. We come first before the bank, and we're already on position for that to happen. It's probably 3 to 4 more months away before we'd actually probably see any money. But we will eventually get our money for that. There's value to the unit.
Actually, with the lien, that would be 10 years down the road before the house is sold, let's say,
Well, well, I don't know the exact details on that. They say normally it's a process. It takes about 6 months from us, not the foreclosure, but from us filing a lien and going down that route. It's probably 5 or 6 months before we'd see anything. But I think the letter that Sydney put together was very good and alerted them to the fact that if they don't pay, that they're going to be subject to, I think it was $350 an hour or something like that, legal fees. And so 1 has already worked, and we'll see what the mail brings us tomorrow.
Yeah, in a perfect world, John, in a perfect world, or in Canada, which is a perfect world, we'd be able to lock them out of the, it's no problem, right? But unfortunately, we're in Florida, so there's sort of legalities to locking people out of their places. So
And if I
be a little
could,
touchy about it.
if I could add, if I,
Assessments and everything that hasn't been paid has just lingered on. And on and on.
Yeah.
well, I would like to say, I don't want to take credit, or give credit to Rick. He and I both have literally taken people, turned them upside down, stripped them out of the animal. And we brought in a substantial 6-figure amount of money. However, it's one lady who I've never even heard a truck driver talk like the way she talked to me. So, I mean, I heard words I never even knew existed. But there are some people that come hell or high water, they plan on not doing anything. this is gonna be the only way it's gonna happen. It's gonna take time, but if we're gonna get it, we're gonna have to wait.
Yeah.
But we've done our best.
Just support for that. That will let it go on and on and on and on. It's really just,
You know, we,
whether they pass funds or what they do.
This many people, the percentage actually is pretty low.
Yeah.
I mean, really, when you think about, when you think about a cross section of people, normal people, you're gonna have a certain percentage that are just.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's the reality of living in a condo, and it's a hard reality to face, but it's not, the problem is that we run into legalities, right? I mean, there's lots of ways to deal with these things, but we can't because of the legal system. So, I mean, if we want to change, then we have to change the legal system, and that's. Well, I mean, these people know the rules, and they know that they're protected by the legal system. And they take advantage of it. There's always people who's going to take advantage of it, always.
Eventually we'll get the money, and it's, in all honesty, it's not chump change. It's not chump change, but it's also not enough that it's gonna wind up draining on our pockets when we get right down to it. With the money that we put into reserves,
We're going to be fine.
we're gonna be fine. We're not gonna be if a pipe breaks or something happens, we have the reserves to be able to get those things fixed. We're never gonna be in a position where we have to be totally dependent on those people that are holding up, sending in money. So we should be comfortable knowing that. That's important. That's important. But we are still gonna get it. I agree. We all agree. Nobody disagrees with that, especially anybody sitting in this room. So the point is, we'll get it, but it shouldn't be something you shouldn't come down the elevator, walk through the hallway and be ticked off about it. Enjoy your life. It's all good. We're gonna get it.
Anything else? Thank you. Date for the next meeting. So, if we stick with the Wednesdays, I don't know if that, I kind of thought last time the Wednesdays were a good idea, because if we have to have 48 hours of notice of meeting, that gives us a Monday at least to get the meetings out there. Yep. So I sort of had tentatively marked down May the 21st, which would be the third Wednesday of May. And hopefully by then we'll have had a chance to look into the as the board will have a chance to look into the electronic voting system. That work okay for everybody?
Yes.
Scott still there?
Yeah,
Oh, he's gone.
he's gonna have
Okay.
You'll be on Zoom.
Okay, so then we'll set the date for the next meeting, 6 p.m. and I will be attending via Zoom. I hope.
So, do we as an organization have a Zoom account? If not, I've got a Zoom account.
Yes, we have an organization. We have one that belongs to Governor Combs. Yes. Yeah. That's what we're using.
To get my internet closer.
Well, yeah, or just do what I did and set up a hotspot. Yeah, that's the easiest way to do it. Just set up a Wi-Fi hotspot. Just make sure that your phone is charging and plugged in if you're going to set it up. It seems to work quite nicely. It's all.
It is working well, yes.
Those little boxes, I am just for the first time, everything in my place is all wired, not cable, it's Wi-Fi.
What,
I just got those little boxes from.
the repeaters?
No, these Zoom, what is the little thing?
Oh, they're repeaters. They're little, they're
Would that work if we brought one of them down in here?
probably not. They're
Oh,
more
okay.
gadget.
Okay.
I mean, unless it's a really, really high-end one
No.
and it has like two parts to it.
The one from.
I use one in Canada, which is a really high-end one for getting out way out to the field and it works.
You were talking to Spectrum about, because of your situation and with Cat5 not coax.
Right. They sent me 2 boxes. They're still in the box. I haven't had a chance to open them up yet. I just was thinking that one of those might be good to look up in here if it was possible.
I think we've got a router and modem, and we can use it here to set up for meetings. That's what I actually made a note about, is if somebody can just actually bring their router and their modem here, plug it in, then you've got your Wi-Fi.
Is there cable here? You need cable with it?
Yeah,
Oh, if it's a cable modem, yes, you would.
well, so we could, probably could. There's cable, I guess, outside that window.
Yeah, but I think probably for the amount of times that we use it, my Wi-Fi has stopped.
I can't use it for that.
Anyways, so we're just gonna make a motion to official then, and make a motion to adjourn. All in favor? Second, we are adjourned.
Good meeting. Good meeting. Meetings are very short. And then, just working fine.